endeavors in the fields of medicine, health, science, and education. And by a generous grant from Jim and Ann Rothenberg.
If there's one part of our environment that has taken a beating over the decades of growth in California, it is our wetlands. By some estimates, 90% of California's wetlands have disappeared. And that's why a project south of Long Beach is so important. Roger Cooper takes us to Bolsa Chica, where the past is making a comeback.
For what's supposed to be a quiet wildlife habitat, there's a whole lot of racket going on at the Bolsa Chica wetlands these days. Nearby bike paths and even Pacific Coast Highway have been sent on detours. Pile drivers pounding in pilings to create a new bridge. Earth movers are scooping out a giant new basin. Workers have removed 64 oil wells and cleaned up their contamination. And they've brought in 8-ton boulders imported from Catalina.
The basic goal is to restore a tidal wetland to near its condition of 105 years ago.
Jack Fancher of the Fish and Wildlife Service is in charge of a massive $120 million project to return Bolsa Chica to the way it was.
Unfortunately, Southern California has an absolutely awful history of destroying its coastal wetlands that we have suffered in the view of some 90% loss.
100 years ago, the Pacific Ocean didn't stop at this spot. It continued inland to a place we now know as Bolsa Chica. But the day is coming, and soon, when the ocean will return.
An old map shows what it was like back when the ocean was free to ebb and flow through inlets, letting its saltwater tides wash over the wetlands. Ironically, it was ducks that caused this bird habitat to be closed off from the sea.
About 1899, a duck club, the then private owner, closed the ocean connection and started building dikes inside to create static water level ponds, duck ponds, blinds. They had a duck club on the Bolsa Mesa, and it was that way for about 50 years up till about World War II.
Then, for another 50 years following the duck club, Bolsa Chica was ground zero for the hundreds of oil wells drilled into the coast around Huntington Beach.
That's a cumulative total of about a century that it's been cut off from the ocean.
For many years, it appeared the final destiny for these coastal wetlands would be in the plans of developers who wanted to build thousands of houses and a marina at the site. But environmentalists like Barbara Sinovich waged a 30-year war to see that didn't happen.
Volunteer organizations began with the Amigos de Bolsa Chica 30 years ago. A group of people in Huntington Beach came together when they heard the development plan for the area and said, whoa, wait a minute, this place is valuable for other reasons than just development.
I call that the cycle of pain, where there was pain inflicted on both sides, those for development, those against development. We broke that pain in 1997 when we found the resources to buy the property from the private owner.
The money to buy the property and restore Bolsa Chica came from the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, which put up $79 million in return for being allowed to remove marine habitat there for port expansion. And that mitigation money is why this bridge will soon take Pacific Coast Highway over a newly created inlet, an inlet that will carry the ocean tides back into Bolsa Chica.
Why do we want the ocean to come back?
At its simplest, the ocean is life. Life is brought in by tidal currents, that there are larval fish and phytoplankton, the zooplankton, the things that live in the ocean water are carried into the wetland by the ocean tides. It's also a place where migratory birds, shorebirds and waterfowl, seek out this abundant life that grows in the tidal wetlands and mudflats.
This is what you call a saltwater marsh, which is basically a highly threatened habitat next to rainforests and coral reefs. This is probably one of the most threatened habitats in the world.
This restoration project will create an additional 600 acres of wetlands, which will adjoin the existing 175 acres, something that delights Grace Adams, who directs the Bolsa Chica Conservancy.
I think that it's going to expand breeding ground for the animals that we just talked about. More than 200 species of birds come in and out of this area. We're right smack in the middle of the Pacific Flyway, so wintering birds that come from north to south stop here as breeding ground. They rest like humans do.
The existing wetlands receive only a muted tidal flow that works its way through this inlet from Huntington Harbor. Even so, it's an eternal force of nature you can see with your own eyes. Much of the new wetlands will get the full effect of tides twice a day.
2 highs every day, 2 lows every day. So the water level in the tidal basin is constantly changing on an hourly basis,
creating what Barbara likes to call a bird hotel.
It's like a Marsh Marriott. They're protected here. They have a wonderful food supply, and there's no fishing, no boating, no swimming in here. And so it is really a sheltered, wonderful place for the birds to stop over.
Bolsa Chica's abundance of wildlife already attracts hundreds of student groups and bird watchers and photographers from all over the world.
It's so much fun when you give children, when we have our classes and exercise, and you say, okay, open your lunch boxes or your lunch bags, and let's see what you've got. And you can see exactly the food chain that gets emanated from wetlands. That their food that's in their brown bag can be directly connected to what's out here in the wetlands.
When will the ocean come back?
Our schedule has us pulling the plug, as they call it, or removing the inlet dam in June, end of June 2006. So we're only about 9 months away from that.
For now, the people who love Bolsa Chica are excited by the knowledge. It will only get better.
Today, there's a reddish egret in here, and that's most unusual for this area. So, and we're watching it do a dance down at the other end to scare up fish, looking for his dinner.
So saving a place by restoring Bolsa saves an island of biological diversity in a sea of urban landscape.
Solace, peace, it's a world of its own. It's a gift.
And so a way has been found. The moon will pull the tides and the rhythm of nature will continue at Bolsa Chica. It just sounds like a pile driver right now. In Huntington Beach, I'm Roger Cooper for Life and Times.